I have a question. Of these two title sequences, which do you think is more effective?
ये खित्ता उन लोगों के सफेद हड्डियों से भरा हुआ है जिन्होंने हमारा अज़म और यकीन पर शक किया और मगरिबी हमेशा इस दुनिया पर हुकूमत करता रहेगा लेकिन हम जिनको तुम वहशी दरिंदे समझते हो वीरान और बंजर कोनों में इस खातिर जमा हो रहे हैं
Coulson, get back to base.
This is a level 7.
As of right now, we are at war.
What do we do?
Both are Marvel films, and both open in similar fashion. We get a taste of the protagonist's character. An antagonist disrupts the peace with an attack and injures the protagonist, and we catch a quick breath before a cut to black and a shiny 3D logo. So why is the Avengers opening more memorable? If they both follow similar story structure, there must be something that sets them apart. The titles. Everyone's heard the phrase show don't tell. It's a quintessential rule of filmmaking and writing in general. Expressing story ideas through visuals is inherently more engaging than just pure exposition. Where a lot of filmmakers get hung up on this is they don't know how to apply show don't tell to the text in their movies, which is understandable. I mean, how do you avoid telling the audience when that's the sole function of writing? The result of this is a film industry saturated with boring titles and uninspired use of text. When we look back at the Iron Man title, there's nothing objectively wrong with it, but it's boring. In contrast, the Avengers title doesn't just name the movie, it aids the story. Let's take another look.
As of right now, we are at war.
What do we do?
The text provides an answer to Agent Coulson's question, and the greater question the opening sequence leaves the audience with. How are the protagonists going to respond to the inciting incident that has just occurred? By forming the Avengers. In film, text can convey so much more than just the meaning of the words. These are just a few of my favorite examples. Films are a medium for telling stories, so it makes sense that film text should convey the ideas of the story. The opening and closing credits of Split come to mind here. The plot revolves around a man with many personalities, and the grid of identical credits reflects this. In addition, I see it as somewhat of a callback to Hitchcock's Psycho, with the plain white-on-black text split into multiple parts. Now, I don't know if this homage was intentional, but Psycho does feature a killer with the same personality disorder, so maybe. Text can also be used as a transition between scenes. Director Edgar Wright is famous for this kind of thing. Here are a couple examples from his adaptation of Scott Pilgrim.
Are you legitimately moving on, or is this just you being insane?
Can I get back to you on that? I do not want to be here.
Oh, wait! Can I get your number?
Wow, girl number.
See you at the show, Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, hey, it's tonight! At the Hey!
In the first example, the sound effect of the school bell is spelled out and literally pushes Scott out of frame to make room for the next shot, giving the sequence a distinct momentum. In the second clip, the name of the venue cuts off Scott's dialogue, collapsing the time in between the two events in a way that's both coherent to the viewer and preserving of the overall flow. Text can also be used as a form of visual comedy, either as supplemental or to take the place of spoken dialogue that just won't do the trick. Like this. Or like this. Text is often closely related with a film's iconography. A classic example of this can be found in everyone's favorite space opera. Both the Star Wars logo and the subsequent story crawl are integral to the franchise's visual identity, and are arguably as recognizable as Darth Vader or the Death Star. They are the first thing you see in every film, but this can be easily subverted for effect. Rogue One purposefully excludes these elements to distance itself from the rest of the saga and its characters. Similarly, the Dark Knight trilogy never spells out the titles of its films. Instead, it relies solely upon the bat symbol to introduce the story. Now, throughout the last decade, there's been a real debate over how to properly portray texting in film and television. And I think for the most part, this is because simple inserts of a phone screen are boring, and they often sacrifice pacing in order to allow the viewer enough time to read the words. However, BBC's Sherlock has a rather elegant solution to this dilemma: off-screen texting. It's much more visually appealing, and the consistent font and color can result in ambiguity around who's sending and receiving the message, something that the series takes full advantage of. Text can also reveal a lot about a film's characters. There's a unique instance of this in Moonrise Kingdom, where a montage of written letters gives us insight into Susie and Sam's backgrounds, as differentiated by their handwriting. In a similar vein, The Great Gatsby uses text to characterize Nick, although instead of contrasting him and another character, the font and color of the words reflect his arc throughout the story. When he is initially absorbed by the glamour and spirit of New York City, the text is vibrant and freeform, but by the time he's become jaded and loses faith in the city, the letters just seem to tumble out, emotionless. Creatively displayed text is especially important in adaptations of novels, and The Great Gatsby nails it. Text can even serve as a connection between films, the most notable example being Wes Anderson's love of the Futura font, which has made consistent appearances throughout his works and has helped to solidify his auteur status. Much like his famously symmetrical shots and obsession with Bill Murray, Futura is a part of his trademark. I think that all of these examples showcase one of the most important aspects of filmmaking, and that is creative problem solving. Reading and watching are fundamentally different methods of conveying information, which is why it's so fascinating when a good director can effectively blend the two of them. Ultimately, film is a form of literature. A picture may be worth 1,000 words, but a good filmmaker can make the words worth something too.